Good evening, Anne Arundel County. Good evening, America. Welcome to Promoting Community, Conversation, and Discovery. I'm your host, Anthony Bynum, name of our production company, the Glenn Burney Players. These are exciting times in Anne Arundel County. There's a lot going on, and we're going to talk about some of it. First of all, let's talk about this incredible weather. It's been so nice. We just seemed like we had rain, but not go away, and all of a sudden it's been beautiful. The danger, of course, is too much beautiful, right? Which means it gets dry. So let's just bask in what we have and hopefully keep it going forward. So some announcements before we get started with the show. The first is that tomorrow there's an event, the Cedar Morris Hill Community Day, right around the corner. It's going to be a fun time. We're going to have a lot going on there. And if you get the opportunity over in the area where Cedar Morris Hill is, go ahead and have yourself a good time on me. Last week, we were able to get our first episode of the new rebranded or rebooted show, Community, Conversation, and Discovery. And we've been getting it out. And we're going to continue to get it out. That's kind of our marketing campaign. We do this each time. So that kind of dovetails into our affiliates. So we want to thank the fine people over at Anne Arundel County Community TV. We want to thank the fine people at Greenbelt Cable Access, which is in PG County, for running our show. We want to thank the fine people at Amherst Media for running our show. We want to thank the fine people at Manhattan Neighborhood Network for running our show. We have a new affiliate or a new source. I guess we can call them an affiliate. It would be the Greater Ferndale Civic Community Association Facebook page. It's a private page, but there's a lot of people on that page that can possibly check out our show. Like I said, we market the show. We try to get it out to as many people as we can, because that's how you grow your enterprise. Okay. With that said, as far as this week's show is concerned, we want to give credit where credit is due. So essentially, there's two sources. One, Wikipedia. The other, though, is a news source called East Anglia Bylines. And there's something that was articles written by Keaton Moore. We're going to take a look at it. We also want to thank our underwriting sponsor, the cleaning chef. So we run that information at the end of the broadcast. Please check them out if you need their services. Okay. This week, June 6, 2024, was the 80th anniversary of D-Day. D-Day, which was, of course, the invasion, the liberation invasion of Normandy, trying to bring World War II to an end. And D-Day actually means the day. That's literally what it means. There are so many people who gave their lives. World War II was a changing event in history, period, because so many different people from so many different nations, countries, etc., were involved one way or the other. There were probably some people who didn't know it was going on, but even with the lack of technology all over the world, one way or the other, people were hearing about it. We couldn't address all the factors in the Normandy invasion. We couldn't address all the factors in World War II. It's just too vast. It's just too vast. So for our most admired this week, what I want to do is I want to take a look at the person who I guess you could argue was the most important person in the entire world as it relates to D-Day on that day. Let me go ahead and go to our screen share here. I'm talking about no other than Dwight Eisenhower. You see, Dwight Eisenhower was the supreme Allied commander. The buck stopped with him. So we're going to take a closer look at Dwight Eisenhower's life, also known as Ike. So he was born 10/14/1890. He died 3/28/1969. Now, we're just going to kind of go through a bullet points list here because there was so much in this person's life. He was president from 1953 to 1961. That's two-term. Again, he was the supreme commander for the Allied Expeditionary Force in Europe in World War II. He obtained the rank of five-star general. I believe there have been maybe two five-star generals. Maybe there's a third. I know there's no more than that, though. It's a big deal. It's a big, big deal. There needs to be a reason for for the president or whoever to add that other star. It's quite an honor. Definitely deserved. Extraordinary times is what would be a reason for that. Let's continue. Now, he commanded Operation Torch, which was America's first foray into the European conflict. That was in North Africa. But then again, he commanded D-Day. It started off as something else completely. It became Operation Overlord, and eventually became D-Day. Let's read a little more. He was born in Denison, Texas, but he was raised in Abilene, Kansas. He graduated from West Point. In 1915, he married Mamie Dowd. They had two sons. He did serve in World War I, but he served homeside. His request for entry into the European theater was declined, was denied. Now, that was actually somewhat of a big deal later on with one man. You see, I've been reading one of these time life commemoratives of World War II, of D-Day actually, and somebody who was under his command, who we've talked about here, General Bernard Montgomery, wasn't all that crazy about taking orders from somebody who hadn't actually been in combat the way he had been in combat. He wanted that job. But with an American president, it just wasn't going to happen. Now, let's continue here. He ran for president initially to stop what he saw as an isolation movement. He knew that once they had been involved in Europe, America was always going to be involved in Europe one way or the other. This was the second time in 30 years. So he knew the importance of American foreign policy. And you're going to see he was actually a very accomplished foreign policy president. Now, his goals as president, there were essentially two. Stop the spread of communism, because he understood about the Red Curtain. He understood it well. But also to reduce federal deficits. So he was a deficit hawk. That's not as big a deal now, but it used to be a big deal. Let's continue. Now, he supported the French resistance in what was called Indochina. After the French withdrawal, he supported the new South Vietnamese government. Now, he did support regime change in Iran and Guatemala. During the Suez Crisis of 1956, he condemned the Israeli, British, and French invasions of Egypt and forced them to withdraw. He did approve the Bay of Pigs invasion, but he left that for the new president, John Kennedy, to carry out. So that was his call, right? He did sign the Civil Rights Act of 1957, and he sent Army troops to enforce the federal court's integration of the Little Rock, Arkansas school system. He undertook the interstate highway system. Now, I got to talk about this. It makes sense to me that this was borrowed. He saw this in Germany, the Autobahn. He had to. He just had to. And, I can see why they would have signed off on it. I mean, I think all in all, the interstate highway system has been good for America. Under his watch, NASA was created. And I guess that was spurred on because the Soviets had a lot of success getting into space. And he said, well, we're not going to be left behind. So that was the start of it. NASA was the start. Okay. So for all those things this week, Dwight D. Eisenhower is our most admired. Okay, let's move on. Something of consequence regarding Anne Arundel County. We're actually going to talk about a park. It's called the Jonas and Anne Catherine Green Park. Here's some notes about it. It's a small park on the Severn River. It features a picnic area, fishing pier, beach for boat launching. Located at 2001 Baltimore Annapolis Boulevard in Baltimore, B&A Boulevard in Annapolis, rather. Has a car top for boat launching. No weddings are allowed there. It opens at 7 a.m. But what I also want to talk about are them, the people it's named after. See, this is a husband-wife team. The first person, I might as well just go ahead and go to the next slide, actually. Okay, here we go. First of the two we'll talk about is Anne Catherine Hoof Green. She was born in the Netherlands around 1720, and she immigrated to the States in her youth. On 4/25/1738, she marries Jonas Green, who was a son of a New England printer. They marry in Philadelphia, but they eventually moved down to Annapolis. In fact, they set up a small print house on Charles Street in Annapolis. You hear that tension? You hear that suspense? Wait for it. Wait for it. Yeah. So from 1738 to 1760, she gives birth to 14 children. Unfortunately, 8 die in their youth. The Jonases established the Maryland Gazette. Now, he died, Jonas established the Maryland Gazette, but he dies in 1767. She has to take over the business. She's now, in debt. She got still lots of kids. She takes over the business and she makes the go of it. The Maryland Gazette is still in business today. So that's the reason why this park is named after them. It's a very, very good story. I didn't know about this person in history. And part of what we want to do here is we want to learn more and more about Anne Arundel County. And so she, Anne Catherine, her husband, Jonas, Jonas Green, they were history makers. They were movers and shakers. They were a power couple. Do we still say that? I'm not sure. I want to take a look at one other thing. So I'm going to stop the, after I pull up something from my phone real quickly here. There it is. I want to stop the share. I want to talk about one other thing. So we mentioned D-Day. This was the anniversary of this Wednesday. The 6th was Wednesday. Yes. There was a lot going on. The Longest Day to this day is probably the best movie that captured, even though it was a movie done in the 60s and the old Hollywood kind of thing. Factually, it was probably the best movie ever done about D-Day. They say that Saving Private Ryan is the best. Well, they went in a different direction, Saving Private Ryan. They talk a little bit about what was going on in D-Day, the hookup, the 5 beaches, the plan, why all these things had to work. One thing they talked about in The Longest Day that they didn't talk about in Private Ryan, Saving Private Ryan, was the role of the French underground. See, they were around and they did as much as they could do, and they lost a lot of lives. They were resistance fighters trying to fight to bring liberty to their country. You remember we talked a long time ago about the speech that Charles de Gaulle gave for his countrymen to rise up and not be timid? So there was a line from a poem, a French poem, but here are the words. Wound my heart with an unchanging languor. That was code for the French underground to do is that the Allies are coming. Disrupt the Germans any way you can. Any way you can. it's hard to talk about World War II and the damage, the destruction, the aftermath, and think that you can cover all of it. It was a historical changing events, and it will ever will be. That's just one line from the poem, but that's a powerful line. It's a powerful line. So as I noted, these are exciting times here in Anne Arundel County. You should have a nice weekend. I know I have a lot of work to do. In a couple weeks, I'll be going up to New England for the presentation, Goffstown History, Vinyl Legacy. I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about that. Eventually, that'll become a show. So, for everyone here at the Glen Burnie Players, my name is Anthony Bynum. Until next time, bye bye.